Hello, class. This is Marcos, and this is our weekly briefing for week 12 going into week 13. And I want to give you guys a bunch of information because we're finishing a project as well as starting a project. And there's lots to do, and I want to make sure everyone knows exactly what you should be doing so you can stay on track. Here's a little overview of the rest of the semester. We have 4 weeks left if you don't count this past week. And on week 12, which was kind of last week or this week, if it's Saturday morning when I'm recording this, but our final files for our storybooks are due. And as we talked about in class, this is something that's a little fluid. It's something that I would like to get in the next couple of days. And if it's going to go into next week a little bit, I'd like to hear from you or see your progress over the weekend. So just make sure you're putting your focus on this, as this project needs to go to a printer. And the reason I'm needing it quickly is so that I can have time to work on each one of them, submit them to the online printer, and then get them back on time for our week 16 final reviews. So please stay in touch with me. I'll go over the steps needed in a few minutes here. But that's the big thing this week is the final files. And then we're starting our new project, which I'm calling an audio-visual storybook. And our part 1 is going to be due on Thursday in our next class. And in that class, you're going to have a short presentation that basically outlines your plan, your design concept, what you want to do with your storybook, how you plan to do it, and a little simple storyboard that kind of showcases your approach to how to do that. And I'll go over that in detail here in a little bit. Following next week, we're going to have 2 more weeks to work on that project, have a design development review on the 14th, seeing your progress, and then the 15th, seeing the completed audiovisual books with sound and everything put together. And then between that week, it's going to be about getting ready for the finals, and the finals will be on week 16, and it's going to be a presentation of all 3 of your projects. It'll be about showcasing your baby board book, and then showcasing your storybook, and then showcasing your audiovisual book. And I'm working on the details to that, but regardless of how we do it, the final reviews, it's going to be about presenting to guest reviewers or guest judges in order to talk to somebody who is not someone who's been part of the class or part of the project. Demi will be there as one of the reviewers, and so will I, but there'll be people who have not seen anything, and there'll be design professionals and some moms to get perspectives on, give you back perspectives on your projects. So that'll be a cool thing. It might be a hybrid of online and in-person. I'm considering doing it right here in the office, and seeing if I can make that work space-wise, or maybe doing it in the classroom, but also having guest judges online. Anyway, I'll figure that out soon, but know that that's the big goal. So back to today, storybook finals are due. Final files are due, and I just want to make sure everyone remembers to use the template that's on the canvas. I'll put it on this canvas for this week, and in case you still haven't used it, but you should be using it. But make sure you understand that the way the template works is that the first 3 pages, the page on the right here, and it's on your template, it's actually not going to have a left side here. It's going to be a single page on your template. This does not get changed except for your name at the bottom here. And then this is page 2 and 3, the first spread. And this is where you're not going to touch anything here except update and add in your portrait, which you can find on the Google Drive under photo shoot, pictures. And then there's 2 options of a black and white and a color, and choose the black and white. The color we'll use for something else, but it's a black and white image in the profile here. And basically insert your favorite choice here. Make sure it's a good picture of you, of course. Crop into it so that it's a profile, kind of like you're seeing me here. Don't go too far back. And keep your head close to the top so that you look strong and fill the space nicely. And then I want each of you to spend a little time to writing your name and where you're from, where you're originally from, You can say you're from New York and you're from wherever you came from, and then keep this text that says, just change the place in your name. And then the second sentence here should talk about either the concept of your design approach, or maybe first start off with saying what your story is about, and what the moral is, and what it's about, a quick plot analysis, and then maybe talk about how you approached your design or your illustration style. And I can help with that too if you just do a quick draft. I can work on that with you when I put together the final files myself. Here's where the photo shoot images are. This page is in the wrong place, but basically it's in the main folder. It says photo shoot pics, and then everyone has a folder with their name on it. And then in that folder is the color black and white. And then you can see you have a bunch of selections here. Okay. And then also at the end of the template, and you can see the blank pages here, is this page that are more books by Dirt, and that's a single page at the end, and that doesn't change. You leave that alone. So basically you need to have 10 spreads, not including the Dirt pages. So 10 unique spreads that are your story. And also remember that the first spread after this spread here is the title spread. And it repeats kind of like what the cover says. It says the title of the book. It says you as an author, or the author, the initial author. If you adapted it, say adapted by. Put yourself and the author if you want, or just put yourself if it's mostly your story. And then also put design or illustration credit in that. Check out the examples of the book and the other books in the resources folder if you need to refer to anything. Keep using that as a reference so you keep up with how you should be doing stuff. Okay, so our audiovisual book, real quick. Basically, this is going to be a project that steps outside the realm of the printed medium and goes into a more interactive, dynamic medium that will allow the story of a book to be read out loud to an individual, to a child, to someone who doesn't have the at the moment that they're experiencing this, doesn't have the more ideal opportunity of having a person reading to them and having an interaction. So we try to maybe do the next best thing and have an audio visual experience that has a voice of a real person, you or someone you commission to be reading the story as they watch the visuals on the screen, or even as they don't watch the visual on the screen and simply listen. I want that to be the kind of confidence we have in the story that we're doing, and just to see the visuals we're doing as secondary. And I don't mean that like second rate. I mean secondary, like main thing is to hear the story. The second thing is to look at it and dive into the experience of the story. That's very important. The second thing is very important. Your illustrations are very important, but I'm just saying that in terms of like understanding the role of your illustrations and your design, and that there is to be some dynamic movement. There is to be some kind of level of experience going on, but it's not about interacting. It's not about swiping. It's not about clicking. It's about letting the experience come to you, and to simply watch and listen. So that will mean creating strong visuals that pervade the space, that bring you in, but that have just subtle movements and are more about kind of this bedtime experience, this like slowing down, this more meditative time, a time to like hear a story, to leave where you're at, not literally, but within your mind. And this is the inspiration. I forgot the app's name now, but it's a sleep time map that tells the story and has illustrations and does some moving, but is very kind of calming. So we're creating an app called Dirt Reads, and Dirt Reads will have a whole set of these stories and be accessible to anybody and be able to click on them simply by choosing the story you want, and then getting a little intro and then being able to click on it and then letting it do the work. So I'll show you some examples of that, but what I want you to do for this assignment is to create a concept plan deck. Let's make a new deck, our third deck, and create an outline how you will approach the creation of your audiovisual storybook. And to do that, there's three options that you have. One, and the most ideal and the most popular, is to literally continue with your storybook that you're working on right now, and to adapt that into being a audiovisual experience. And to do that, take the illustrations, the typography, the text that you've already created, and turn it into a vertical format. Utilize ideas of how to pan across or go up and down, or to zoom in. Think about some slight movement or some slight effects. Think about sound design. Are there sounds that could be accompanied with the voice? Is there music that could be part of this? And to utilize your storybook and bring it to life in a new way. And I think that's the best idea, because this way we'll be able to offer both a printed piece for read aloud and traditional reading experience, and then we'll have a more self-service kind of audiovisual book that can read to you. But another option is that you decide that, boy, I sure wish I did this story. I had a second choice that I liked from the beginning of the storybook, and now here's your chance to start a new story. And you can do that, use a story that you thought of too late, like something from your culture maybe, and you can make a whole nother story using this project. It'll take more time, so you have to make sure you're committed to that and you're able to do it, but that has been done, and it can easily be done. I'll show you an example of that. But that's the second option. And the third option is like, I've done 2 books now. I can do this. I can write an original story. I have an idea. I saw how a classmate had used a story that they heard from when they were a child, or I remember a story now that I'm doing all this. This is your chance to write your own original storybook and create illustrations for it. So that's kind of option 3. And then back to option 1. Option 1B, I'll call it, is if you happen to have a book that had a longer storyline, like Mariana's 5 Penguins, for example, that would be an example of something that could be turned into an audiovisual book that started off as a baby board book. Typically, those baby board books might be a little short, might be a little not narrative enough to do this, but I think it's possible. And I'll show you an example of a student who did their baby board book as their audiovisual book. And I'll start right now. But first, before we go to that one, this is an example of a book that was done by a student based on their storybook, and their storybook was based on Aesop's fables, The Grasshopper and the Ant. I believe I shared this, or I did share this in class with you guys, and basically modernizing the idea of grasshopper and ant, and having 2 sisters, and one sister who was not helping with the cookies, and then when fall was over and winter struck and there was no food, when the cookies were ready, she wanted the cookies and couldn't have them. But here's kind of how it works.
Presents Can I Have a Cookie? Illustrated by Ashley Kim. Narrated by Ashley Kim and Annie Park.
So as you can see, it starts off with an introduction, and it utilizes the pan across. And as you heard, there's a voice that's announcing the story, and it's also someone who's not the designer. This person decided to get a friend to help her, and that's great. You can do that for sure, or even better, get a relative if the story is connected to somebody. But this is a chance for you to collaborate with somebody to be the sound person. And as you can see here now, there's still images. They're moving across slowly. It's traditional. It's not trying too hard to keep your attention, and it makes you focus on the sound.
Carrying bowls and spoons to the kitchen. Curious, the young girl decided to follow her sister. When she caught up to her sister, she decided to ask her, "Why don't you come and play with me instead of baking a cake with Mom?" So
as you can see, it does those things I'm saying. It keeps you listening. It does change. It does move around, but it does within this context of really focusing on the story.
Her mother, suspicious, asked,
"Here's a way to break up what was a horizontal image into a vertical by having top to bottom layout structure." And again, it's a lot of just swiping across different speeds, stopping at the right time, planning it out, and utilizing the format of vertical in its best way.
Can I Have a Cookie? Illustrated by Ashley Kim. Narrated by Ashley Kim.
Oh, sorry, it was Ashley who there's 2 people who were narrating because there were 2 characters. So Ashley got a friend to help her be the second character, the second sister, and that's why there was another person there. But you can have a person completely narrate it, or 2 people or 3 people. You don't have to do any narrating if you want to, but you can. It'd be kind of cool if you did. Okay, then another example is this is from a baby board book. and it's one that doesn't even have a lot of words. And this is one that takes the idea of interaction more. So all the things I said before about being boring and traditional are still true, but you can choose to make it be a little more movement oriented. And this is about movement, so it made a lot of sense. Let's listen to it. And this is also a place where this student enrolled their mother into getting into being the narrator, which I think is awesome. And if we can get our family members like this to be part of this, I think that just is a good way to practice design.
We like to move. Written and illustrated by Malavika Srinivasan. Narrated by Kirtana Srinivasan. Take your hands and clap, clap, clap. Then touch your nose just one tap. Give each of your ears a gentle tug. Raise your shoulders and slowly shrug. Close your eyes and open them wide. Stomp your feet from side to side. Now this last one, you don't want to miss. Give someone next to you a little kiss. We like to move. Written and illustrated by Malavika Srinivasan. Narrated by Kirtana Srinivasan.
All right, so there you go. So with that, you could see that there was the element of some motion. There was also sound design in terms of when the stomping happened, as well as like graphics that went along with the movement. And there was also music ongoing playing in the background, as well as a unique motherly voice with an accent that kind of went with the origin of the designer who wrote this, which all just kind of made it a great package. So think about that. Don't think like, oh, my voice is not like a radio announcer's voice like that. I prefer that it's not like a radio announcer's voice. And if there's a distinguishing feature to it, or if it's a second language accent, like, great, bring it on. So utilize like think it through as much as you can to get all the little details that make a simple thing like this really a special kind of experience. There are more that we went through in class that you can see on the Google Drive that has a bunch of these, and we went over these in class, so I'm not going to do it again. But for those of you who missed class, or for those of you who want to see them again, they are available on the Google Drive. And I'll let this one play with sound very low. But this is an example of somebody who did a brand new story, or adapted a new story called Stone Soup, and turned it into, like, from being an ancient story to being a modern story of travelers who are now backpacking campers, and they come to a town and no one will give them food, so they start to make soup out of stone, and then some people start bringing things to add to it. But the reason I want to show you this is that it has
and wonder how it was made.
It has a variety of simple illustrations that don't have to take a long time, that will allow the idea of someone like you being able to start from scratch, because the background is just plain, and the illustrations they're nice, they're sophisticated. I'm not saying they're simple to do, but they're simple in look, and if you have the expertise like most of you do to create something like this, then it doesn't have to necessarily be take a lot of time. And in fact, one might argue that depending on the way your storybook is illustrated now, maybe it's actually faster to just start from scratch and do something that you can customize into that much different space than a spread. So it's something worth thinking about, because an element like this is simple and quick to do, and it might give you a chance to do a third story altogether. You might be up to here with the story you're doing now and so sick of it. Don't let that influence you, because that's okay if you are, because you're just working on it. But the option of creating a brand new story, or even writing a brand new story, is still there. So consider that. Okay, so this is where the audiovisual books are kept. You can see here there's like over 10 of them here. And I was almost tempted to make an assignment being, watch these and give me a review of 3 of them, or list your top 5. So maybe make that an assignment for yourself, like watch these, take the time now to watch these, study them. They're from different points. And like I said in class, like there's a progressiveness that happens with when you work on something, not competitively, but in that competitive kind of sports spirit, like, oh, the last year's record was this, I'm going to go this far. And I feel like now this class should take what's happening here and maybe take another leap forward, so that the storybook, audio storybooks get even better. So that's the challenge to you, is like make this thing one step better. So here's a look at what your presentation should look like. Use the same template you've been using. An opening page and a very important thank you page. That's the one thing. If you take anything from this class, I want you to remember always at the end is thank you. Thank you is at the end. And then basically just write out a plan. Like your plan is to utilize your storybook, or your plan is to make a new story, or you want to use your baby board book, kind of explain the approach and some of the things you're thinking about doing, whether you're going to add some illustrations, whether you're going to add some sound design, whether you're going to get some music or get somebody to help you narrate it, or to narrate it yourself. And then basically take, if you're taking your storybook, just take the illustrations you have and maybe do a quick kind of storyboard of it and crop them. You don't have to get fully into it, but you can if you want. But here you can see the reason why this one here, the second one's black and white, is because in her planning, she realized, oh, there's kind of a missing gap that didn't really get covered when reading out loud, and I'm going to draw a new thing, or I'm going to change a drawing to be here. So that's what this represents. And then here on the story plan, you can't quite see, but there's numbers at the beginning of each statement that indicates which panel it's for, so that the story is broken up. Now, one thing you might find is that your story is short, and just know that you can be slow about things. You can speak slow, or have some gaps between sections. But another opportunity, if you do have a short story and you happen to be from another culture, is to do a bilingual book. And I think a bilingual book would be super exciting to have. And the way to do that, I showed this in class, I don't have it here on this deck, but is to start and say, kind of like when you're hearing somebody give a speech and they're being translated, like say a paragraph, say the first panel of story, and then the translator or yourself repeats that same story portion in the other language, go to the next section, say it in English, repeat that same section in the second language until the end. And that's a way, if you have a shorter story, to make it extend. Or if you don't care about the length, you just want to have 2 languages, that's a way to do that. Here's an example of doing a plan that doesn't necessarily require having all that writing. If you just kind of want to be able to talk it through and then put notes around how you're going to do things, that's another way of doing it. And here's a close-up of that. And then if you're doing an original story, or if you're doing a new story that we need an introduction to that. So do kind of what we did before, like showcase the story, so tell us what the plot is about, give us some design inspiration for what you want to do. So if you're going to do a new story and you design, you have to take the steps needed, as we did in the first 2 assignments, to showcase the background, to showcase some inspiration and some research, and then to then take it to the plan approach. All right, so there is an audiovisual storybook part 1 on the Google Drive. Put that deck up for Thursday, and we're going to meet in class and review that together. I've got this up on the Google Drive, ready for you, with a link to the archive, as well as a link to the Google Drive. And then finally, just a reminder, like I've gotten a 3 or 4 emails, maybe 3, about people wanting additional, but I suspect there might be more. So don't miss the bus. Let me know if you want extra copies of your baby board book. They're $21 each. And I want to order them on Monday. And I just need to hear from everybody. So make sure, if you don't respond, then let's assume you don't want any more, but don't come back to me wanting more on finals. It'll be too late, and you'll be left outside without any oil in your lamp. Okay, so that's it for this. But that shouldn't be the last time you hear from me. Like, should be the week where we're really in contact. Send me the final PDFs of your storybook so that I can okay it. Then you can send me the packaged files. And I'll look forward to hearing from you, and we will see you guys in class on Thursday. Take care.